Mhm. Hey, Tim.
Going on.
Not a lot. Hold on a second. No, just doing my normal stuff. Doing some grading, doing some planning, doing some research, doing some writing. Last couple of days have been pretty full. What about you? What you got going on?
My parents went down to Mississippi Jackson so on Friday morning or Friday night, Thursday night. I don't know whatever night it was. My mom fell and broke her femur Sunday
Oh,
night, Saturday night, going into Sunday.
her femur?
Yeah,
How does she do that?
well, she's sedentary to a chair, so every time and cancer's not helping and all that stuff too. So when she got up to get in from the chair to the bed, or from her wheelchair to the bed, I guess putting pressure on it didn't help at that point, and
Mm,
she's been in the hospital, had surgery yesterday. She's been in the hospital till at least this weekend, and they're trying to find a rehab facility up here in Memphis, but
mm.
I don't know if they're gonna find one. So if not, she'll be in Jackson for 3 weeks.
What type of cancer does she have?
Kidney cancer.
Oh, how long has she been with that?
It's been in like a dormant state for like a couple of years. She's had it about 4 or 5 years, but it's been
Wow.
dormant to like 10% growth, for 2 to 3.
Okay. How is she doing mentally? Because I know something like that can take a lot out of you.
Yeah, I asked my dad the same question. He said that she's probably doing better than he is.
Mm.
Knowing my dad, he feels obligated, thinking that it's his fault,
Uh,
and it's not.
yeah, I hate that. You put a lot of burden on yourself when it's your significant other. So I get that aspect of it, but you hate to see someone, especially I consider like my parents, the age that they're at, you hate to see them put that undue stress on themselves.
Well, just about a week and a half ago, we celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary.
Oh wow. Well, congratulations to them.
So
So they're what?
I'm just gonna say they're probably, my dad, just like you said, is probably thinks his significant other has been with her for at least, I think, 52 years. So
Yeah. Are your parents in their 70s, late
yeah,
60s?
70s.
Yeah, that's about the age. My dad just turned 74 the other day. And he's had more health issues this year than he ever has. He plays golf probably 3 days a week, maybe more, and he's been dealing with vertigo. He's been starting to have some early signs of arthritis, and so um,
Well, that's another thing. My mom has rheumatoid arthritis too.
yeah, and that's painful. So, well, I'm sorry you're having to deal with all that. Hopefully, your mom will get to feeling better, and hopefully, she'll be taken well took care of.
Hope so.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and get rolling. For those of you that are here, what I want to do today, first of all, it's been a while since we've been together. I was looking at eCourseware, and I know we had a week where we were playing catch up for some people because being that we're in a virtual world, I know it's easy to get behind. It's easy to I know it's easy to kind of lose motivation for everything that you're doing regarding classwork. And so I know it's a struggle. So hopefully being given that time has been was beneficial for you. And hopefully each week's been a little bit easier for you in regards to the format and everything that we've been doing. So the first thing I want to do before we do anything else is, as you know, this is team sports. And in a typical normal semester, there's a lot of hands-on learning in this class. We spend every day in the gym. We discuss things, but the majority of the time for this class is spent in activity and hands-on learning. So we've had to make a complete 180 this semester in regards to how we teach the class. At the beginning of the semester, I thought that might be a benefit because I was actually excited about the opportunity for you to learn more about sport education and the benefit of that instructional approach, because I think it can be beneficial in a sports setting, but also in a teaching setting. But I know it can still be difficult, especially when the learning is occurring away from the classroom. So what I want to do is just kind of open it up to you guys in regards to questions related to sport education. So as we've gone through the semester so far, what have been the things that you're still confused on? What are the questions you have that have come up in your own mind as you've been doing the assignments? Or what is that area of sport education that you still don't have a lot of clarity on? So let me just give you a minute to think through that, and then we'll take a moment just to answer any questions that you have.
I guess my question would be, I understand the teacher is kind of walking around giving, feedback or whatever to different kids and all that, like after the seasons has started and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we have never really I guess, looked in depth about how what the teacher's doing during that time. We've only seen like videos of what the kids are doing during the games, like the hockey game or whatever, make sure there's sticks on the ground, stuff like that. But what is the teacher what is the purpose of the teacher walking around telling the kids, reminding the kids of this, telling them to do this and all that?
Yeah. Well, let me just kind of walk you through a sport ed season and kind of give you an idea of the teacher role. And I know we've looked into this a little bit in your book and in your content, but let me just kind of give you from my perspective, since I've used the sport education model for really going on over 15 years. With sport education in phase one, you're doing your skill practice, and you're giving the students the opportunity to practice the skills related to the sport or activity. And what you're doing is you're spending time in assessment, learning more about the students and what they're capable of doing. Now, if it's a group of students that you've had before or a group of players that you've been coaching for a while, you're going to have some familiarity with what they're capable of doing. I enjoy that phase because it's an opportunity for instruction. It's an opportunity for improvement and seeing them get better. As you transition into the preseason, you're continuing to work on skills. So the beginning of the class, you typically have a block of time where you're working on skills. And so in that moment, you may lead the instruction, or you may teach your coaches, and then the coaches may do what's called a jigsaw approach. And in a jigsaw approach, I coach the coaches, and then the coaches go to their groups and they teach them. In those situations, I'm going from group to group. I'm watching, I'm observing, and I'm also assessing. I may have a checklist, and I'm looking for things that they're doing well and things that they need to continue to spend time practicing. Because in those moments, they're trying to get better as a team because they're practicing with their team. Also in the preseason, you're doing some practice games. Now, the purpose of practice games is not only so they can continue working on skills and start to apply the tactics, but it also gives you an opportunity to help them with their duty roles. Most of the kids that you're going to teach are going to have very little understanding of officiating. So you're going to be able to help them with understanding the rules and procedures and how to make accurate calls. Most kids, regardless of age, if you were to put them in front of a screen and you were to ask them, can you give me the correct signal for this particular rule violation or foul? And the majority of them couldn't. The majority of it couldn't tell you what it means or what it represents. Now, there are some that may be a little bit more obvious. For example, in basketball, everybody may know that this is traveling. In football, everybody may know that this is unsportsmanlike conduct. In baseball, if somebody does one of these, you know that it may be a strike or a strike three, the batter is out. Or very simply in baseball or softball, the hand goes up and you know exactly that means that the runner's out. So there's certain calls that we're familiar with, but not many. On top of that, you're also teaching them the components of what are my other roles? How do I keep stats? How do I make calls? How do I retrieve the ball or the object of play, and where do I return it? So you're helping them with procedures, helping them with those transitions. Now, when you get into competition phase, and one of the videos that you watched was of Chuck at Pick Elementary in Auburn, Alabama. And Chuck's a good friend of mine. He's great at sport education. And one of the things you noticed with him was he was walking around observing gameplay. He was offering group feedback. And one of the things you couldn't notice was that he was going from student to student, giving individual feedback as well. So not only can you assess during gameplay, but you can also give the individualized instruction. And most teams are going to have a sub or two. And so there's been times when I've actually said, hey, will you go get Tim so that I can talk to Tim for a moment? Tim comes off the field, the playing surface, and we talk about what I saw so that Tim can apply it in that moment. And so that's during the competition phase. Also during the competition phase, and you got to see an example of this, it's always good at the end of the class period to have a closure. And in that closure, you're going to talk about the things that you noticed during gameplay and when the teams were doing the procedures. That's where you help provide the feedback to help them learn so that they can be better as they move forward. What you're going to see in sport education, and this is a typical progression, is that as they go through gameplay and as they continue to work on skills, is that you're going to see a development not only from a technical standpoint, but also from a tactical standpoint. And that's good. And that's what you want to see as a teacher. And then finally, when you get to the culminating event, now we are at the end of the season. Now, maybe they've had 20 lessons to work on a specific skill. And so I may do some sort of summative evaluation or assessment to be able to see how much growth occurred from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And most often, you're going to see quite a bit of growth because of the amount of time that they got to practice. The last thing that you want to do as a teacher when you're using sport education, and some people have a misconception of this. Some people, when they view sport education, they go, well, the teacher's not doing anything. The teacher's just sitting off to the side. Well, that's just a teacher being lazy. In a sport education season, the teacher is going to be highly active, doing the things that we typically don't get to do. If I'm doing a traditional direct style approach of teaching, that means I'm telling you what to do, you do it, we practice, we move on to the next skill. In that traditional approach, then I typically am not going to have an opportunity to spend a lot of time in feedback and talking to students one-on-one. So the great thing about sport ed is we get to do the things that we typically may not have the time or opportunity to do. So that's kind of a just kind of a preview or a kind of a summary of what's typically happening over the course of a sport education season. So I know it's a long answer, Tim, but hopefully it kind of gives you a kind of a mental picture of what it looks like.
It does. Thank you.
All right, other questions you have about sport ed up to this point? All right. So as you know, you can email me, you can text me. My job is to help you better understand the model and how it works. I've also noticed as I've gone through and graded assignments that you're getting a better grasp of what sport education is. there's still certain elements that we're trying to refine and get better at in regards to our understanding. And I'll continue to provide feedback on those matters. Here's what I want to do today. We're going to take a look at eCourseWare, and we're going to look at this week's assignments, because I want to go over the assignments to help you better understand what the expectation is and what exactly it is you're going to be doing. This week you have 2 assignments. Now, you may have looked at the syllabus and you may have seen that we were going to do chapter 8 this week, chapter 18 next week, and then we were going to finish with our content knowledge packet. Well, one of the things I did, because I started looking and revising the content knowledge packet assignment, was that I probably need to give you a little bit longer than a week. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 2 weeks to do the content knowledge packet. And there's 4 parts to the content knowledge packet. So next week we're going to do the first 2, and then the following week we'll do the final 2. So what we'll do for our final 2 Zoom calls is I'll kind of do a review, or shall I say a preview, of what the expectation is in regards to what you're doing for the content knowledge packet. So this week will actually be our last week of looking at content from your book. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and share with you my screen. And I'm going to have to shuffle between screens like I've done before, because there's multiple documents that I want to share with you. So I'm going to be going through this, sharing with you some things about the documents, but also providing some instruction for you as well. So at any time I say something that's confusing, or at any time I say something you need a little bit more clarity on, just stop me and we will be sure to discuss. All right. So you should see eCourseWare, and you should see week 11. If you don't see that, then speak up, because right now everybody has their video off, so I don't see anyone. So if I'm ever talking about something and you don't see it, just turn your mic on and tell me, okay, so that I know. But because sometimes when I shuffle between screens, it goes away. So this week, we are looking at competition formats. When you do competition in sport education, there's different formats that you can use. The 2 main ones that we're going to talk about today are progressive competition and then event model. Event model is typically more present in individual sports, whereas the progressive competition format is your basic foundation for a competition format. So we're going to look at both, and I'm going to share some examples with you in regards to what it looks like. So as you scroll down, and again, I've already shared all this in the video, so I'm not going to go through and do it again. So again, watch the week 11 introduction video, because that gives you a breakdown of everything that you're going to be doing this week. But mainly I want to focus on the 2 modules. I want to focus on chapter 8 competition formats, and then chapter 18 assessment in sport education. So the 2 documents that we're going to look at are progressive competition and the event model track and field. So these are 2 examples. The progressive, both of them are Excel spreadsheets. Now the other 3 documents, this is your video. This is my lecture for chapter 8. So again, it's about 10 minutes. So just go in and watch that for a introduction to the chapter 8 content. This is the PowerPoint presentation. As a reminder, the PowerPoint presentation has lines that are blank. So you have to watch the video to be able to fill those in. And then you also have the quiz, same format, about 5 questions, just a way for you to review the material to make sure you have an understanding. So let me go ahead and do a new share. All right. Okay, so you should see this document. Let me bring it over to this screen so I can see it a little bit more clearly. Okay, so you should see the document that's titled Progressive Competition. And so what you're going to do this week is you're going to look at the example for phase 1 of the season, and then you're going to fill in the phase 2 part of the season. Now, everything in this blue square is basically describing what's happening over here. So imagine this scenario. Imagine you have 30 students in your class. Now,
I
for
don't see a blue square.
what's that?
I don't see a blue square.
What do you see?
I see where it says team relay and field track and field. That's the document I see.
Oh, yeah, you're looking at the wrong one. Hold on. I thought when I shared my Excel sheet, I could switch back and forth between the Excel sheets. Obviously, I can't. All right, here it is. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so you have 30 students in the class. And so what we've decided is we're going to make 5 teams. Now, from previous content, you typically want to make teams divisible by what?
You don't
3.
rehearse your speech. I'm like,
You want to make teams divisible by 3. So in that scenario, how many teams would we have? If we have 30 students divided by 3, how many teams should we have?
10.
10.
Yeah, we should have 10. But let me show you what we've done. In a way, we still made it visible by 3 because we've actually doubled that number. Okay, we've made it divisible by 6. So I'm going to show you how it works when you have 6 players on the team. Now, I'm using my cursor. Hopefully you can see my cursor as I'm moving it. But you have 5 teams. Okay, you have the Blazers, the Flyers, the Kings, the Rockies, and the Grizzlies. These colors represent the color of the team. And then the names below represent the players on that team. So as you can see, for the Blazers, you have Charlie, Missy, Desi, Jim, Lisa, and Mary. So those are the teams. Now, in the phase 1 of this particular season, we are doing 1 versus 1 competition. You don't have to worry about what sport it is. We're just looking at it from a format standpoint. But we're doing 1 versus 1. So in this one, we're doing graded competition. Who can tell me what graded competition is? We've talked about graded competition in previous chapters. Somebody give me just a easy description of graded competition. All right. Since no one remembers, let's look at the players. So you have Charlie, Missy, Desi, Jim, Lisa, and Mary. So what we're going to do is we're going to grade their competition. So we're going to have 3 levels, okay? We're going to, or actually for this first season, since we're doing 1 versus 1, we're going to have 6 levels. So we're going to rank our players. We're going to have a 1, a 2, all the way to 6 level player. So what's going to happen in this particular format, all the 1s are going to play each other, all the 2s are going to play each other, all the way down to 6. Now, look at this competition schedule, okay? So we're going to move over to this area. Charlie, Elizabeth, Pedro, Tom, and Raul are the graded players at level 1. So these 5 are going to be playing each other 1 versus 1. Now, here we have opening day. Now, for opening day, the Blazers are going to be the duty team. In other words, they're going to be the officials. They're going to be the statisticians. They're going to be the scorekeepers. They are going to be managing the event. The players are going to be from the other 4 teams. So as you see, we have Elizabeth and Pedro who are playing each other in the first game, and then also Tom and Raul. So Charlie is not going to be playing on day 1. Instead, he's going to be the duty team. But that doesn't matter because everybody is going to serve in the duty team role, and everybody else is going to have the same amount of actual competition. As you see on day 2, Elizabeth is the duty player. Pedro's playing Raul. Charlie's playing Tom. So if we follow Elizabeth, she's playing Pedro. She's playing Tom, Raul, and Charlie. So they are playing everyone that's graded the same as them. In sport education, sometimes you get the graded competition incorrect. So let's say you go through a cycle of playing 1 versus 1, and maybe you realize that Charlie isn't a level 1 player. Charlie's more of a level 2 or level 3. But then you're also watching Missy and Desi play, and you realize, yes, they're better. They're playing at a higher level right now. So it's okay to change people out based on how they're competing. That's no problem at all because, again, graded competition means you're trying to make it as even as possible to increase the fun and enjoyment and the opportunities for success within your students. So we have level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So as you can see, there's a lot of games being played, but everybody is fulfilling a role. So here's what you have to do this week for this particular assignment. In phase 2, we're going to be doing 2 versus 2. So for 2 versus 2, using the same rankings, you're going to tell me on the Blazer who the 1 and 6 player are. And then you're going to write those names in here. And you're going to do that for each team. You'll notice for the B level is the graded 2 and 5 players. And then the C level is the graded 3 and 4 players. Now imagine if this season, we'll use this as an example, imagine it was pickleball. So in pickleball, you're playing 1 versus 1 against somebody at that same level. So for phase 2, when you're playing 2 versus 2, you have to try to balance the teams. And so one of the best ways of doing that is you can do 1-6, 2-5, and 3-4. What's another option for putting 2 teams or putting 2 players together? For those of you
The top 2.
all last semester and me, you know what this is.
I wasn't there last semester, but I would say the top 2, the middle 2, the bottom 2.
Yeah, absolutely. You put 1 and 2 together, 3 and 4, 5 and 6. So you have options. You can even do something random like 2 and 4 and 3 and 6 and 1 and 5, as long as those players are playing against each other. So this is what we would start with. So your task for this week is I want you to fill in these squares. So I want you to find the players that meet this criteria. And then I want you to tell me what a good schedule would be. You're doing a 2 versus 2 competition on days 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. As you can see, everything highlighted in red. These blocks, which are in white, outlined by the dark black. And then the blue represent the actual games being played. So this is your opportunity to see how you would fill out a graded competition schedule. If I was doing a sport education season, I would print something like this off to be able to post on the wall so players can see who is playing when and when they're going to be the team that's serving as the duty team. Okay?
All right. Hold up.
Questions
Explain
about
that
this?
again.
Say it again.
Explain that again. The one that's season day 6, 7, and 8. What we're doing for the red, white, and blue.
So up here, notice how you have the names representing the games. So Elizabeth's playing Pedro, Tom's playing Raul. Now
Right.
here, you've got to tell me what the schedule's going to be. So for example, for the Blazers, okay, and I'll go ahead and help you with this. For the Blazers, who's the number 1 player? Sorry. Who's the number 1 player for the Blazers?
Charlie.
Charlie. So I'm going to put Charlie. And who's the number 6 player?
Mary.
Mary. Okay, so let's look at the Flyers. Who's the number 1?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, good. And then who's the number 6?
Kevin.
Kevin. So let's imagine that these 2 teams are going to play each other on this first day. Or they wouldn't play each other on the first day because Blazers are the duty team, Flyers are the duty. So let's say on day 8, we know for sure that the Blazers and Flyers are not going to be the duty teams. So what I would put here is I would put Charlie/Mary versus Elizabeth /Kevin. And then your other 2 games would be what 2 teams? If the Kings are the duty team and the Blazers or Flyers are playing each other, what would be the other game?
Rockies, Grizzlies.
Yeah, Rockets and Grizzlies. So essentially what you're doing is you're going through and you're filling in all these squares to tell me who's playing who. So your checks and balances would be this. You fill out the players and then you look to see to make sure that Charlie and Mary have 4 games against all the other teams. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what you're doing. I want you to fill out this bracket because I want you to have an opportunity to work on creating a schedule for competition. Okay? So when you open up this document on eCourseWare, this is going to be blank. So you're going to fill it in, save it, and then submit that to Dropbox. Any questions about that?
No, I got confused when you said, I honestly forgot what you said for Squad A and Squad B, but then you said Squad C would be the games. So I thought all
Oh, my bad.
games were being Squad C.
No, I must have misspoke. I apologize for that. That was my fault. Okay, any other questions about this? Okay, so the other document that you were looking at earlier was this document. Okay, and this is the event model. Now, let me just kind of give you an example of the event model. Let's take a sport like swimming. Let's say you're doing sport education with swimming. And let's say that we are doing our first competition with freestyle. And our first competition is going to be a time trial. And so every student is going to do the freestyle swim, okay? They're going to do the freestyle swim for 3 trials. And the top score is going to be their best time. Now, let's say that they are doing that individually. So I'm going to go into the pool, I'm going to do the freestyle, and I'm going to do it 3 times. In an event model, I may be competing individually, but my score is going to be added to our team total. So let's say that me, Tim, Kim, Jalen, Latresa, and Ethan, we're all teammates. Okay, we make up one team. What your rules may be is that there's 6 people per team, and the top 5 times for each team is going to count. So let's say we go out and all 6 of us swim, and we look at the time trials, and we look at the best score for each player. And we look at my score, and I had the lowest score. So what we would do is we would throw my score out. And then we would add up the time of the remaining 5 players. And then we would compare those scores to the scores from the other 5 teams. And that's what the event model looks like. And you could do that for freestyle. You could do it for backstroke. You could do it for relays. You can do it for a 2-man relay. You could do it for an individual medley. I love sport education with swimming because there's so many different competitions that you can do and so many different ways to give students opportunities to perform. When I was teaching at Auburn, I had 2 Olympic medalist swimmers in my swimming for fitness class. And we would do the sport ed model. And it was interesting when it came time for them to compete. Everybody in my class who wasn't necessarily a competitive swimmer, they would do everything in their power to try to stay as close as they could to the Olympic swimmer. And the Olympic swimmer had such good technique that they were basically just kind of relaxing as they swam to the other end of the pool. But they were going 2, 3, 4 times as fast as the rest of us were because their technique was so good. But the thing I loved was that competitive spirit, that desire to be better. We would constantly talk about technique. We would talk about ways that they could minimize their time and take seconds off of their time. Because when you think about swimming, one of the biggest mistakes we had, and I'm going to try to show this to you in the video. I'm going to actually look at the picture of myself so I can see that I'm showing it right. In swimming, you want to be parallel to the ground because when you're parallel, you have less resistance. Now, for novice swimmers like myself, the first thing that starts to sink are the hips. So as soon as the hips start to sink, imagine yourself going through water and you're pushing in this formation. You're going to have a lot of resistance. If you're moving in this formation, you have less resistance. So one of the things I noticed with my students was they would work a lot, spend a lot of their practice time trying to maintain buoyancy and trying to maintain keeping their hips on top of the water surface because they were looking for ways to reduce the time. That's what you want to happen in sport ed. You want to see your students work to get better so that they can try to improve at whatever it is they're working on. Now look at the example here in this particular Excel file. You have Kevin, Harold, Sam, Tom, Mike, Dave, and James. you see their best time. Okay, and so you have the 3 time trials, and then in the dark black square, you have the best time that is written. So typically with your score sheet, you are going to have different formats that you can use. One of the things I always tell my students is this: you can always change up the document that you're using. You can create one that better meets the needs of what it is you're trying to accomplish. So this is an example of what the event model would look like. The one we looked at before is for progressive competition. Okay, so any questions about the competition format files that I shared with you? Okay, so let's go back to eCourseWare and let's scroll down to assessment, because I want to go over the other document that you're going to be working on this week for your other assignment. So as you can see, I've shared more files in the assessment module. So I want to go through each of these files and just give you a brief explanation of what these files are and how you can use them. So here you have the video of me presenting, and then here's your PowerPoint presentation. So the first one we're going to look at is the team portfolio scoring guide. Now this is something that we haven't had a chance to talk about a lot. So I want to take a moment to share this with you. So give me just a second so I can believe this. No, that's not it. Let me find it. Here it is. Okay, so on your screen, you should see the Word document titled End of Season Team Binder Portfolio Assessment Scoring Guide. Okay.
Nope.
You see it?
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Hey, showing up.
It's paused. Hold on. Now you should be able to see it.
Yep.
Okay. So one of the things that we haven't really talked about a lot in regards to sport education are the different things that teams can do in regards to assignments. This is one that I love. This is a great team building activity that you can do with your students. And essentially what you're doing is you are having them maintain files in a 3-ring binder, or potentially if you have the technology, maybe you have iPads, something that they can maintain on their iPads or on their laptops if those are issued at their school. And essentially what you're creating is a folder that collects different files that they are being asked to do. Now let me show you some of those files that can be included. In their portfolio, they may have a team photo. They may have a photo of the team mascot. Every team is going to choose a mascot, and you want them to bring that mascot to every class period because that represents their team and that represents the pride of them as they're participating. You may have photos of players, okay, with a biography or a profile. So in other words, you get to share a little bit about yourself. There's been times when I've had teams have a poster board, and on that poster board, they had to put the pictures of each player and answer questions about each of those players just to share information. Again, students love that because it's an opportunity for them to talk about themselves. Maybe you have a page of what their team philosophy is. When a team comes together, sometimes, let's say you have those 6 players, and all 6 of them may have a different philosophy on how they should compete, but they have to come together to create one philosophy that they're going to work by. You also may include all the game information, the team stats, the player stats. Maybe you're going to take some photos to include in the portfolio. And one of the things you can do with these portfolios is you can actually post this information in the hallway at your school or on a team bulletin board that maybe you have at your school as well. Some other information that you can include in your portfolio are assignments related to their team name. Many times in sport education, we're going to use themes. So for example, for one unit, they may be countries. For one unit, they may be continents. For one sport education season, maybe they're going to be a different type of animal. And based on that team name, they are going to have different assignments. Maybe if they're doing a country, you're going to have them look up the national flag. You're going to have them look up the history of their country. Maybe you're going to have them do just a brief paragraph talking about the country as it relates to sports. Maybe you're going to have them talk about the history of sports success, the economy, the political system. A lot of this is going to be dependent upon what they're doing in their classroom. What are they doing in social studies? What are they doing in science? What are they doing in English, language arts? Take what they're doing in the classroom and create different assignments that they can do with their team. And that gives them an opportunity not only to be in physical education, but also working on those other academic areas. If you become a teacher, principals love that. They eat it up. If they see their related arts teachers doing things in their classroom to help students get better in different academic areas, they think that's great. So that's a wonderful thing that you can include when you're working in your physical education classroom. All right. The next document that I want to show you is the end of season survey. Now, I've shared this with you because it's a great way for you to get feedback from your students. Let's say that you decide to do sport education. And let's say just by chance you're working in Memphis and you've invited me to come out and to help you, to assist you, and we're working on doing a sport ed season. At the end of that first season, it may be really good for you to do the end of season survey. So let me show you what that looks like. Maybe you want this information from your students. Now, here are some of the questions that you may ask your students. Okay, statement 1. I enjoyed this sports season because it lasted longer than a typical unit in PE, so I had more time to learn. What you want to see is you want your students to be checking strongly agree. Statement 2, I enjoy being part of an actual team early in the season and staying on the team for the whole season. That's called affiliation. When you're with a team for the duration of the season, students love that. They love being a part of a team. I enjoyed the schedule of team practices and formal competitions throughout the season. Did they enjoy practicing the skills? Did they enjoy competing against other teams? I enjoyed the festive aspects. For examples, photos, bulletin board, team names, mascots, player introductions, everything that is relatable to a sporting event. If you go to a sporting event here at the University of Memphis, they're going to announce the teams. They're going to do different things during the course of the game to try to get the fans riled up, to try to get the fans energized. They're going to do things outside of the actual gameplay to try to make it a festive environment. They may throw things into the stands as giveaways. They may give things away when you first get there. I know I went to a softball game one time and my two oldest children, Avery and Owen, competed in an ice cream eating contest and they got free ice cream for a year. They loved it. They wanted to go to more softball games because they got free ice cream. So there's always things you can do to make it more festive. As you go to page 2, I enjoyed seeing the scores and records for my team and me. In other words, statistics. We love seeing statistics. I learned a lot about this sport during this season in my physical education class. I would like to learn more about this sport. So taking that enthusiasm and continuing to show a desire to be active in that sport. So that's the reason why you would do a survey, is to find out what the students think about participating in a sport education season. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is I want to show you a scoring guide. Now, a scoring guide is a way that you can assess the skills related to the sport that you're doing. So I'm going to show you an example of a basketball scoring guide. And again, these are all available to you so you can look at them as examples. And then I'm going to show you what you're going to do for your assignment. Okay, so let's look at the basketball one first. Okay, so here is the basketball scoring guide. Now, as you can see, it is about 10 pages long, but the reason it's 10 pages long is because there's a scoring guide for every skill that you're evaluating. You're not going to have time to evaluate all those skills. in a typical sport ed season, what you're looking at are what are those skills that we're really struggling with? Or what are those skills that we spent so much time on trying to get better? So you want to be able to evaluate or assess those skills. So as you can see in the basketball scoring guide, they had a scoring guide for passing and receiving, dribbling and turning, shooting. For tactical moves, they had support, guard and mark, transition play, and decision making. And then they also had one for game rules and fair play behavior. So that's what's included in the basketball scoring guide. So let me show you this one as an example. Typically in an assessment, you're going to be giving them a score for their performance. In a sport ed season, you can actually evaluate them as they're doing gameplay. So every time they get an opportunity to perform that skill, you're going to be watching them to be able to evaluate them. So let's say that Tim, I'm evaluating him on passing and receiving. So I'm going to be watching him during gameplay. Now, how would I measure that? So as you can see, we have three columns here. We have exceeds, we have meets, and we have developing. Now, meets means you're at that expected level. Developing means that you're struggling a little bit and you're going to need a little bit more time to develop those skills. And then exceeds means that you're going above and beyond what the expectation is. So let's start with the ones and then work our way up. So as it relates to passing and receiving in basketball, someone who is developing would have the following characteristics. Passing is inconsistent, requires more time to move ball onto other players. Therefore, passing lanes are easily closed down by opponents. So someone who is slow in passing, someone who doesn't have a lot of speed on their pass, it makes it easy for the defender to intercept. Frequently exhibits hot potato syndrome. They catch the ball, and as soon as they catch it, they want to get rid of it. Typically in basketball, that type of player is someone who doesn't have a lot of confidence in their ability. My daughter, when she played middle school basketball, dribbling was her weakness. She was a post player, but when it came time to dribble, she would go crazy. She would lose all confidence in her ability. And so she typically wanted to get rid of the ball and put it in someone else's hand. Favors few techniques. In other words, when they pass, they use the same pass over and over again. Recognizes few passing plays. Keeps eyes down when in possession. Exclusive use of dominant hand, thus required more time to pass. So instead of depending upon a two-handed pass, they're trying to make a one-handed pass because they don't trust their other hand. That's examples of someone who is struggling. If I'm observing Tim and I see these frequently happening, I'm going to grade Tim at a 1. But what if Tim is more at the level 3? Notice the characteristics of level 3. Needs more time to move ball to teammates, resulted in being closed down by opponents, and reduced passing opportunities to teammates. So it's a little bit better than emerging, but still there's a little bit of a struggle there. On a limited basis, uses techniques such as give and go and crossover. So I see glimpses of good choices and good tactical components to passing and receiving. Hot potato syndrome is less evident. They're more confident, more comfortable with having the ball in their hand. At times, employs effective triple threat position. Somebody tell me, what's a triple threat? What does it mean if I am in a triple threat position? Anybody?
I may be completely wrong when I say this, but you got your feet set and the hands on the ball are in a specific area that you need to go to.
Okay. You're on the right track to do what, Tim?
Pass.
Okay. That's one part of the triple threat. What else would you need to be ready to be able to do?
Shoot.
Shoot or
Drive.
or dribble. Okay. Someone who's in a triple threat position, they are in a good balanced position and they can do one of three things. They can dribble, they can pass, or they can shoot. typically when you're in a performance mode for basketball, you hear many coaches, many teachers talk about the triple threat. What if you catch the ball standing straight up? Okay, you're not going to be prepared to do many things. But if you catch it with your knees bent in a good shooting position, not only can you shoot, but you can also dribble, you can also pass. So what I've noticed with this category is that Tim occasionally puts himself in a triple threat position. So what happens if Tim gets exceeds? Passes to open teammates effectively using a variety of passes. And using a variety of passes is important. I want to be able to use a chest pass when somebody's wide open and I'm trying to get it to them in a hurry. If somebody is using their hands at a high level, I'm going to use a bounce pass to go underneath those hands. Or maybe if someone is keeping their hands low, maybe you have some room over the top, maybe I do an overhead pass. So being able to execute that is important. Executes good techniques when appropriate force, with appropriate force when passing. Regularly selects right type of pass given defensive pressure, being able to read the defense and know where the pass can go. And then receives balls with hands in ready position with clear target for passer and transitions from triple threat position. And as you can see here, shoot, drive, or pass. So that's the difference between a 1, 3, and 5. Now, some people will ask the question, well, can I give them a score of 2 or 4? Absolutely. That happens when you're seeing signs of not only level 1, but also level 3. So if you're seeing a balance between level 1 and level 3, then I'm going to probably average that out as a level 2. So you can actually give 1 of 5 rankings based upon what you're seeing. Some people, when it comes to assessments, especially for certain sports, will say, if I see these things happen, that's the score that they're going to receive. So for example, if I see the elements included in a level 5, that's the score that I'm going to give someone. So what you're looking at is you're looking at majority. What is happening most often? And then as you can see at the bottom of the page, you have a place where you can put their name, and then you have a place where you can put their score. Now, I will say this about this particular assessment piece. I would like to see more space down here because I would like to see another column which allows me to put in comments. I want to put a few comments in that I can give back to my students so I can give them a little bit more information in regards to why they got that score. Okay, so that's just one. As you scroll down, you'll see on the ball play, you'll see as part of that, dribbling and turning, shooting, support, okay, guarding and marking. So again, you have a lot of examples to look at. So now what I want to do is I want to show you what you're going to do this week for volleyball. So the last couple of weeks we've been looking at volleyball. So what you're going to do is you're going to create your own scoring guide for one of the volleyball skills. Okay, so let me bring that one up. Okay, so you should now see the one-page document that I want you to complete this week for one of your 2 assignments. So what you're going to do is you are going to fill out this form as if you're going to assess the forearm pass. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the forearm pass, it is typically the pass that is being used when the ball is being served over the net. The ball is coming over the net. I have my 2 arms extended in front of me. I'm creating a flat platform. And when I do a forearm pass, I'm bending and extending. In other words, I'm not swinging my arms. That's one of the biggest mistakes students make with a forearm pass is they like to swing their arms. Instead, I'm going from a bent knee to an extended position. And that's going to allow me to pass the ball. You want the contact to happen somewhere on your forearm, but you want your arms to be side by side. You want it to create a flat surface. That is what's considered a forearm pass. It's probably the most used pass in volleyball. If you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to go on YouTube and look up a volleyball match and watch the passes that are being used. The 3 primary passes that you're going to see is a bump, a set, and then a spike. You're also going to see the underhand and overhand serve being incorporated to start and actual volley. So here's what I want you to do. For all three of these categories, developing, meets, and exceeds, I want you to come up with 5 benchmarks. I want you to tell me what's going to be evident in all 3 of these categories for the forearm pass. Now, in eCourseware, you have plenty of examples. You have football, you have flag football, you have basketball, and you have soccer. So if you're sitting here thinking, I have no idea what I'm going to put for 5, I have no idea what I'm going to put for 3, look at the examples, look at the language being used, look at the terminology being used, and then apply it to the sport that we're doing, which is volleyball. So you're going to fill out these 3 areas for me as it relates to the sport of volleyball. That's the opportunity for you to create an assessment that can be used for a specific sport skill. Okay? Any questions about this? As a reminder, make sure that you're using complete sentences. Okay? I don't want shorthand when you're completing this. I want you to use complete sentences similar to the example that I shared with you before. All right, any questions? All right, so that is everything for week 11. So you're going to do the quiz 7 and quiz 8. Those should grade automatically because you're not doing any short answer, okay? You're doing things that should be graded correctly right away. And then the other 2 things go all the way to the bottom, and I want you to submit the scoring guide, and I also want you to submit the completed competition page. All right, any questions? All right, that's all I have. Hope you guys have a great week. If you have any questions, make sure you guys send me an email, send me a text. Don't forget, Mondays are your virtual office hours. So if you need assistance or just need to talk one-on-one, I leave my Zoom open. So you can click that link that I posted on eCourseware. If you go to the course homepage, just click on that link. You can join me, and I'll answer any questions that you guys have, okay? All right, everybody have a great week. Let me know if you need anything.
Thank you. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, what's up?
So for quiz 6,
Well, first
how
of all, how you feeling?
Not great, but it's okay.
So what are you dealing with sickness-wise?
Corona.
Oh, you do have it?
Yeah,
Oh, does somebody on your team have it?
yeah.
Well, I'm
My
sorry.
roommate had it too.
Your roommate had it too. When did you find
Yeah.
out that you had it?
Huh?
When did you find out that you had it?
Friday.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. What's been the worst symptoms for you?
I'm just exhausted and I don't have any energy.
Mm.
And I'm out of breath from getting out of my bed.
Oh,
Yeah, it's not great, but
that's very unusual for you too.
yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. Well, let me know if you need anything, okay?
Yeah. For quiz 6,
Yeah.
it still says I had 6 out of 10. Did you already check my short answers or?
I thought I did. Let me look at it while you're on here real quick, and I'll
Okay.
see what happened, and then I'll give you some feedback.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. You know what? I think I may have skipped over yours.
That's okay.
Yeah, because I went in and did everybody's, but I can just tell by looking at yours that I didn't make any changes to it. So let me grade it right now, and I'll send you an email if you missed anything to let you know, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Kim. I'll see you later.
Bye. Have a good one.